right, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're a little behind, but I promise you we're going to make up for it and some because we've got not one, but right now two pro wrestling stars from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and later on we'll have another star from Wrestling Championship Entertainment that is certainly no stranger to Sportswire Radio, but this is going to be worth it because these two wrestlers, when I think about in a lot of ways the meat and potatoes of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, these two individuals would be those individuals. And also, on top of that, you might want to turn your radio down.
Sorry.
That's okay. But I'm going to get back to what I was trying to say to introduce you guys, because when I think about maybe one of the more emotional matches this year this company had, it was that 16th anniversary match between the resident rock star Sean Jovi and Dark Fire. They have a special relationship. We're going to get into that, plus much, much more. So, further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, Global Sports Show. Pro wrestling stars here from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is the resident rock star, Sean Jovi and Dark Fire. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, Reverend. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys gave me some time because I know it's a big Thursday night football game on between the Packers and Titans, and certainly many of our friends here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment are certainly Green Bay Packers fans, and certainly I did admire the resident rock star Sean Jovi's Green Bay Packers deck of cards. I'll get into that later on for sure as well. But gentlemen, great to be with you here on Sportswire Radio, and I want to talk to the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, first, because I'll get into Dark Fire, because certainly he's a part of a huge storyline as well. But, I mean, obviously, it was the news that kind of rocked Wrestling Championship Entertainment just before our last show of the year that, unfortunately, you could not attend due to the unfortunate COVID-19, and certainly kind of a big bummer. And I think that things could very well be different here in WCE, but I got to talk for those who are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, and kind of how do we bounce back from that? How you feeling? And certainly, how did you like how things developed after that with your unfortunate sickness and Fight or Fright Day 1 and 2?
Well, I mean, the COVID thing was very unfortunate, and the worst part about it is my symptoms were bare minimal. I thought about taking the test, and I was like, I could have something. You never know. Like, I had a couple sniffles, a couple coughs, and then it just ended up me having COVID with no symptoms hardly at all. And I had to tell the GM, look, I don't want to get you guys sick. I know I have a big opportunity, but I can't do that to you guys. So I stepped out of the match. JDT took the opportunity, took the reins, and ran with it. And I'm glad the right person for the job would be JDT. I do respect him as a competitor. He is one heck of an athlete for a guy his size. Very admirable. Reminds me a lot of myself, honestly. Big guys doing big things.
Well, I mean, you said something interesting there, and I'll come back to Dark Fire in a second. I mean, certainly we did a little bit touch upon the fact that JDT, this was his first singles championship in his 25-year career, and you're a big man, he's a big man, and I feel like I've heard everybody in the kitchen sink kind of throw something out there in terms of wanting JDT, and we even heard Craven Rage kind of talk about he feels the overconfidence factor that JDT has going for him. But, I mean, are you technically, I guess, the first guy in line to get a shot at this title because of what happened with you and everything else? I mean, I have to ask that pretty much.
I wouldn't say I'm the first in line. What happened was when I had to forfeit my title shot because of COVID, I was promised a rain check of sorts that I can get a title match on whatever month. And I haven't decided when I want to do that yet, but in time I will probably know. And honestly, I'm hoping it's JDT when I decide to do it, because I want a big match. And I think a big match feel would be me and him, potentially even a dream match for the guys our size. For guys our size, it would be a colossal match, and I really would like to be a part of that. Hopefully next year, and hopefully take a step up. I'm hoping.
I have to ask you, Sean Jovi. I mean, I hope the ring would be able to stand afterwards with you and him in the ring.
We're both over 300 pounds, man. I don't know. That ring scares me enough. Well, what happened?
All right, fair enough here, and certainly Darkfire. I want to bring you into the fold here on Sportswire Radio for the first time. We're getting a chance to hear from you, and certainly, I mean, it's kind of been the rage almost, literally, no pun intended, the Craven rage. I mean, Nicholas Crenson seems like he has it in for you. He seems like he's wanted to bring up a number of different things about your past, and certainly we saw a little bit of that unfold at certainly Fight or Fright here this past show, our final show of the year here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. So, I mean, how you doing? And I mean, how do you bounce back from all those things that Crenson has thrown out there from you?
Well, I just sit there and take it, I guess, and deal with it and whatever.
But if you but I always have to ask, and I want to give a shout out to Edward Jones, who's with us. I know Edward is also kind of trying to do his own thing in the wrestling world. But I mean, to sit there and take it after some of the things that Crenson has put out there about you, and basically, and using your past and some of the things that have happened. I mean, to sit there and just take it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how many people could really say the same thing? Is it maybe because you're a humble man? Maybe you've shown humility. I mean, talk me through that. Talk to me about that.
Well, eventually Crenson will get what is coming to him, and I'll eventually beat him in a match. Eventually, if it ever happens, I don't know, but
I think you can. I know you can.
He's a hard opponent, man, and he's a really good wrestler.
I beat him. I know what it's like to be in the ring with Crenson and Darkfire. And
Craven Rage certainly also got the best of him. So, I mean, Crenson's on a run, no question that he had a big weekend, and he'll talk about his weekend, also his latest promo. But, I mean, I still feel like Darkfire, yes, you seem like a very humble man. You seem like a modest man. You do seem like you've turned over a new leaf, and I like you. So, I mean, I'm not going to go out and talk about you. I'm not going to go out and talk about your past because, after all, I am a reverend at the end of the day. So, I mean, I have to certainly give you the benefit of the doubt and all those things. But, I mean, I have to ask you, I mean, there's got to be something here throughout this offseason because we're not going to have any action here for a long time. And you got to almost want to go out there and say, you know what? Something's burning inside of me, and I can't let this guy say all the things he said about me. I mean, even if it's somewhere in a dark alley somewhere, you are Darkfire after all.
From the ashes. Eventually, I'm going to say something. Yeah, it's bottling up all inside me right now, and I'm trying to think of what to say to Crenson. And
you got the Clark Kent look going for you right now. Maybe that's what it is. You got that Clark Kent with the glasses, and almost, I mean, I don't know if that's the point of that there.
I'll become Superman.
Well, you might be. You certainly got superhero wrestling-like skills here. And speaking of those that also have tuned in, one of the people that always talks about all the stuff we do on Sportswire Radio and a big wrestling fan in his own right from Brooklyn, New York, in the neighborhood of Ditmas Park in Brooklyn, that is Anthony J. Finkel, who, by the way, is a big man in his own right. I think he's about 6'2", and maybe he could step in there one day for Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He is, of course, the man behind. I think a lot of people
will challengers.
Well, Anthony's a big man, and I think Anthony's still got a couple of punches left in him, and he's still got a couple of bumps he could take through his bump card. But he is tuned in. He's going to kill me for saying this, but he says hello from Brooklyn, New York. But
hello.
The resident rock star, Sean Joby, I want to come back to you, obviously, and I do want to talk about the match because we have you with Darkfire. I think in some ways, as I had said in my introduction here, that I kind of think it might have been the most emotional match that WCE had between you and Darkfire in the 16th anniversary match. And I know we've spoke about it here a little bit in the past, but I mean, for those that are watching and listening, talk to me about the match afterwards and how much it meant to you to have Darkfire to be that opponent with you.
It meant a lot. You see, Darkfire and I, we have an extensive past. If you went on my YouTube channel, you could date it back to 2007.
I watched one of your matches. I think there was like a match. It looked like it might have been 1987 rather than 2000. You guys were like out in the like.
I mean,
It
I was
must have
born
been.
in '90. That's still before my time.
All right, fair enough. I'm born a few years before you, but I could remember some of the '90s. But the way that the camera and the video was shot, it could have been
Oh
'87
goodness,
for all I
I
know.
was like,
That was my
I was
point.
a high schooler with an extreme budget. I worked part time at a restaurant as a busboy on the weekends. Like I didn't have
Wow.
to do
Okay.
anything extravagant.
Hey, well, listen, join the club. I mean, but
Yeah, right.
but the match. I mean, talk about the opponent and Darkfire, and I know it meant so much to you in the
Oh yeah,
video package we saw, and just how much have you thought about that match since now the off season's now been a little while?
I've been reflecting, of course. Darkfire gave me a good match, and I'm very happy that match happened the way it did
Thank you.
because you and I, Darkfire, have dreamed about doing something like this for years. Wrestling in a ring, one-on-one,
Indeed.
not on a trampoline, not on some dirty mattresses that we use.
Yeah.
An actual 16 by 16 foot ring.
And it was amazing. The match was awesome. We connected right.
And you're my best friend, obviously. It's no secret. We have a long history. But I wouldn't mind facing you again, obviously.
I look forward to that.
Down the road, of course. I'm always open to it. And it did mean a lot. It meant a lot. It warmed my heart. It was big. WCE has presented a lot of opportunities for people like me and Darkfire, and I can not be thankful enough for what they have done for him and I.
Oh, absolutely. No question about that. And I actually want to plug Wrestling Championship Entertainment because if you like what you hear from WCE, please go over to WCEheat.com for more information. You also go to WCE Heat on Facebook to subscribe to the Wrestling Championship Entertainment Facebook page. Also, Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube, where you can watch as much content as your heart desires and follow the likes of the resident rock star Sean Jovi and Darkfire. And my name is Tom Bryce, otherwise known as the Reverend Tom Bryce. I actually am a Reverend, and I am actually here with Sean Jovi and Darkfire. And Darkfire, before I get to some comments here, I wanted to ask you, because I did hear what Sean Jovi had to say, and this is the first time I'm getting a chance to formally speak with you. And did you ever think, I don't know, 16 years ago, or even 6 years ago, that you and Sean Jovi would be able to have a match like the match that you guys had, and also in a place that has developed such a strong following in Wrestling Championship Entertainment? I mean, talk to me about your thoughts on that.
I never thought we would ever get to wrestle in a ring, but miracles happen,
Pretty much short, straight, and to the point. And let me get here that if Darkfire hadn't shaved his beard, he would have toasted Crenson. Click, click, boom. I mean, so was shaving the beard the right way to go, Darkfire? Was it the right way to go after all?
I thought I don't know how to respond to that.
Some people believe in superstition. Like famously, there was a legendary baseball player in the Hall of Fame, Wade Boggs, and before every game, he had to eat a piece of chicken or a bucket of chicken because that was like, if I don't do it, I'm going to go 0 for 4 and strike out 4 times. There was other pitchers. There was a guy that pitched for the Cubs and the Mets, Turk Wendell. Every time he went on the mound, he wouldn't touch the white line. He would have to jump over it with his cleats. There are just people that have Kevin Nash was somebody. Remember, he would jump off the rope and he would kind of take his legs, and there's just certain superstitions. So, I mean, maybe that point there from one of our friends is saying if you had kept the beard or kept the facial hair, maybe you would be Crenson. I don't know. That's just one person's thought.
That could be true. Maybe.
But we both shaved our faces for our match. We wanted to look like we were in 2007 again.
Well, I look like I'm in like 1907 with my facial hair, so I'm not one to talk. But certainly, we'll come back to some of your history between the two of each other. And I mean, the resident rock star Sean Jovi, I want to ask you this question because I'd asked a wrestler I had on a couple of days ago here on Sportzwire Radio, kind of the same question. Now that we're getting ready to close out 2022 into 23, I mean, when you look back on your year in Wrestling Championship Entertainment overall, how do you feel about the year and how it went for you?
It's a weird year, very weird. I started the year saying goodbye to my old backyard fed, Ronis Championship Wrestling, by doing that ceremony, retiring the IRCW title at Crowning Achievement. And that's where it started with. And then, of course, coming up short in the Fatal 4-Way to crown the first in your state. I've come up pretty short for like the first half of the year. I started coming back. Then, of course, the 3 Doors Down match with Craven, that kind of set me back. And then next thing I knew, the year was over thanks to COVID. So it was a really roller coaster year, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily bad or good. I would say it was an experience more than anything. And I would say that next year, I'm going to go bigger.
Well, let me ask you.
I didn't go big enough, but hey, I'm going to go bigger next year and come out stronger than ever.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question. I'll ask the same question to Darkfire in a minute because, again, he had also a very colorful year, let me put it that way. But, I mean, does that give you motivation going into the offseason? Say, you know what? I didn't necessarily have the worst year of my career. I didn't have the best year of my career, and I certainly didn't get a chance to end the script the way I may have wanted to. So, in a way, does it give you that extra motivation? Say, you know what? It's back to the drawing board. I got to do whatever I can these next 4 or 5 months to keep myself ready, keep myself locked in, to have that year that maybe I would have wanted to have had, especially maybe even at Fight or Fright Day 1 or 2. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, like I said, at the end of the opening season of WCE, I went out with a bang and I defeated Craven. But like I said, again, the whole year was kind of wishy-washy throughout. But my goal for next year is to do better than I did last year. And that's how it's been every year in my backyard career.
That's fair enough.
I mean, the many places I've been, that's always been my goal. Just be better than you were the year before. Put on a better performance. And this year was actually probably had some of my best performances I've ever had. The 3 Door Down match especially, as far as performances go.
Well, if you look at it, leave aside the win-loss record, I mean, your last 2 matches, Darkfire and Craven Rage, I mean, right? I mean, you couldn't ask for 2 of the better matches that were in the year. I mean, these were, I would argue to say 2 were probably the top, I don't know, 7 matches, maybe 6 or 7 matches in WCE. And they always say in wrestling, they judge you basically on your performance in the ring. There's a wrestler that we're friends with here that's currently a world champion in another company. And I won't say his name. And he always tells me, you know, Tom, it doesn't matter about wins and losses. It only matters about 2 things. How your performance was in that ring, and if people liked what you did. So that's one way to look at it. So there you go. So that's somebody that I would trust just like I trust you. And, you know, Darkfire, I want to ask you the same question because you also had a really, really interesting year for a number of different ways. And I kind of think that some people have told me also in the locker room, and I won't say who, they said, you know what, Darkfire really came on strong in the second half. His ring performance, Darkfire's ring performance really came on strong. So, I mean, I ask you the same question. How do you feel like 2022 went for you here at WCE?
I think it went great, actually. Very great. I have to say that my performance has improved a little bit. Oh, more than a little bit, I should say. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Does that give you, well, okay, so does that give you confidence going into the offseason? You know what? Yes, I know the stuff with Crenson that happened. Yes, I've had my skirmishes in the ring with other people. Let's say Craven, obviously, 16th anniversary match with Sean Jovi. But you know what? My ring performance improved. My fellow wrestlers in the locker room know that. The fans know that. Management has seen that. And you know what? That gives me something to build. In some ways, you have a different offseason maybe to look upon to than a Sean Jovi because Sean Jovi's got it in different ways. So give me your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts, I hope that I can become a better wrestler next year and become champion.
Well, what championship would you prefer? Obviously, we've got 2 titles, and you can certainly.
I prefer interstate.
Okay, well, you know what? That could be a title that maybe might be more attainable at this point. And I do want to get to our guest who will be with us here, maybe in about a half hour, so maybe a little more than that. That is, of course, the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. And to give his due, Darkfire at Fight or Fright was a lot tougher of an opponent than he was at Beat the Heat. What do you say to that, Darkfire?
I think that's true. Yeah. At Beat the Heat, I felt like I wasn't at my best, but at Fight or Fright, I was at the top of my game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the same. And I'm just going to give my take on it because I've obviously gotten a chance to watch all of yous in the ring, and certainly it might be different because I'm obviously not a colleague. I'm not somebody that's kind of competing for some of these spots, and I really did feel like your ring improvement. What impresses me most about you in the ring is your agility, what you're able to do in there, and kind of your kind of versatility in the ring. So I think that your quickness speaks well. You're not like the most quickest, let's say like a Kodak Kid or a Dash Andrews, but you're also able to hold up very well. And I think that could certainly bode well for you here in 2023 for sure. And the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, I did also want to promote you also in something that I know we really want to promote, and because it's kind of a way part to WC, it's your own YouTube page. We're up to 513 subscribers right now. And certainly, you were definitely quite the rave. You were certainly quite the craze. And talk about the YouTube page and certainly why and where people can subscribe and tune in to follow your journey.
Sure. My I do vlogs every week, so and I have old matches on there from 2007 up throughout many promotions throughout the Midwest that were backyard. Indiana Championship Wrestling comes to mind. That was a big one in my career. I have all my matches from there. I have everything from other areas, other backyards, other territories in the Midwest. On top of that, I got my old stuff. I got a lot on that channel, and actually tonight after this broadcast and after Crenson gets off the air, I plan on live streaming on my account the new Pokemon game.
Oh, no, one of my buddies, Steven Solanke, I believe just got the game because he posted on Instagram. So we'll make sure that
it should come out midnight around your time, 11 o'clock my time. So by the time you get off the air with Crenson, I should be starting the stream. So I invite you all to go over there.
I will. You know what? Actually, that'll probably be when I'm eating my lunchtime meals. So I'm on a weird schedule. But and where can we find you on YouTube?
You can look me up. Just look up Sean Jovi Selby. I'm not hard to find. It is Sean Jovi. Not too hard to find. My profile picture has like a camera lens that says Jovi's vlog on it.
I've seen the music stuff.
It should be easy to find. I know they're doing handles now or something.
Yep.
That would be at RCW Rules, RULZ. I also have a Facebook fan page that also posts the vlogs and stuff in case you don't follow it enough on YouTube. And that's just facebook.com/Sean Jovi, I think.
Well, I believe that's the case. And I also, before I get to Darkfire, I actually want to thank everybody because Sportzwire Radio just reached the 500 follower milestone. So I really appreciate everybody that's followed Sportswire. So it's been a grind, it's been a journey, but I was always told in life that one day at a time, one person at a time, and we'll continue to do that. But I want to ask you a quick follow-up question on some of the matches that you've had, and obviously I want to bring it back on before the end of the year and talk about some of those matches and kind of go down memory lane with it because I think that would be a kind of cool thing to do. But when you were yeah, we're going to definitely do that. And when you were shooting matches, let's say, and kind of similar to the Darkfire question on the 16th anniversary show, but let's say like 2007, 8, 9, did you ever think that on YouTube you'd have hundreds of subscribers that would be watching these matches? So, you know what? Yeah, I really want to check out Sean Jovi. I mean, walk me through that mindset when you're recording these matches 10, 12, 15 years ago. I mean, I just feel curious about that.
I mean, 10, 12 years ago is a lot different era than what we live in now.
Oh, it's a totally different world. A totally different world.
Yep. So, like, as a 16, 17-year-old kid just getting into this backyard scene, messing around on a trampoline, it was hard. It was hard to get started. Nobody really cares for, like, the trampoline or backyard stuff that I was in back in the day because we were just kids messing around. We weren't like, suplexing people like crazy or anything. We were just kids trying to have fun, recording for kicks and giggles, and if we get something out of it, we get something out of it. I've always been a fan of video production and like how things are made, and I actually taught myself everything video editing that I've learned pretty much on my own.
Wow. I mean,
no
that's very,
classes, no nothing. I
you
just
know what?
kind of
That's
guess
very
and go.
difficult, man. You know what? And I took one class on video editing, and I'm not a great video. I am nowhere near what you did. So what you were able to pull off, I could definitely appreciate that very much. So there's no question that you certainly have your support there and make sure everybody follows. And Darkfire, I want to come back to you, and I know obviously we're just getting to know you and your journey, and I kind of wanted to ask you this question, and I haven't really got a chance to formally ask anybody, and I'm kind of thought about it as we're kind of shooting the breeze here on Sportswire Radio here, talking wrestling championship entertainment with the resident rock star Sean Jovi and Darkfire. I mean, how did you say, you know what, I want to be a professional wrestler? How did I want to get into this business and be the big star that you are right now?
How did I want to get into this? I'd have to thank Sean Jovi for it. He recruited me. Back in the day on RCW, when we did RCW, he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing, backyard wrestling thing. You want in? And I'm like, sure. We'll see what happens. And here we are, years later, still wrestling.
It's a very on and off journey too, because like Darkfire, what would you say? Like after RCW folded in 2010, you didn't really hardly wrestle with us at all after that.
Not really, no, not much.
Because around that time, I was expanding my horizons and going to other backyard gigs in the Midwest, in Illinois and Indiana. I think I did one in Ohio at one point.
Yeah.
And in that time, Darkfire was pretty much living out his life. But when WCE came calling, I was the first one to knock on his door and say, hey, I got an opportunity for you again.
And I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you.
And look what it's done for you. It's done a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we're here right now, right? We're speaking live about it. We're speaking about the journey. And, since you kind of brought it up, Sean Jovi, I don't think I had a plan, but I almost had to ask because I find it so fascinating that you kind of talked about. I don't think in the other couple of times we had you on, we really got a chance to speak about that. But you've wrestled in different places like Ohio and Indiana and Illinois. And, we do a lot of wrestling coverage on Sportswire Radio. Thank God we have a massive following for it, certainly places in England and these different little towns. And, I mean, what is the life then like of a backyard wrestler to wrestle in these different places? I mean, what's that journey like? Because I kind of find that a journey that we really haven't got a chance to maybe speak about here on Sportswire. I mean, kind of talk me through that.
It's an experience, a very good experience, though. So basically the whole traveling thing started. This federation that was on trampoline the same time I was on trampoline, Indiana Championship Wrestling, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I was
very
fascinated what they were doing. I found them on YouTube. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I got to wrestle on trampoline with these guys? So I reached out back on MySpace.
I remember MySpace. I do remember.
I'm starting to forget about it, but that's where
I go back to the days of like Live Journal and what was it, Meat Spot. I mean, I'm like a tad older than you guys, so I definitely remember those days of the early social media world.
Oh, this next part I'm going to tell you is going to blow your mind. Then, so when I talked to Devin Bliss, one of the wrestlers for ICW at that time, he told me to go on this website called GBYWN. It stood for Global Backyard Wrestling News, and it was a forum for backyard wrestlers around the world to discuss backyard wrestling, professional wrestling as a whole, set up shows to where everyone can meet up and hang out and wrestle. And I've done plenty of those myself. Pretty much all the traveling I did from 2009 to like 2010 or 11 was straight up super shows. Whenever people in other backyard feds wanted to come together and do a super show between all these backyard feds across the country, I was there. I wanted to be there. I thought it was cool. And I was very inexperienced at the time, but I wanted to just be part of it. I just liked the community, and I would say like Indiana Championship Wrestling did a lot for me in that aspect. They welcomed me into their family. When they resurfaced in 2017 and they had a ring, that I came back instantly. They asked if I wanted to join for a show or two, and it became a little bit more than that. There was also another fed I was in, Midwest Wrestling Alliance, that was based out in Illinois. I like Chicago area. And that was a big one too. I had plenty of fun matches there. Actually, wrestled the guy who I got my finisher from. We had a match for who had the rights to the finisher. I won. So the DOA that you see in my moveset was formerly known as the markout by a man named Mark Reconcile, and it was a very good match, and it was hard fought to earn that DOA a spot for a finisher.
That's pretty neat there. You never know what you can learn here on Sportswire Radio. And I want to change subjects and come back to WCE for a little while. We got about another 20 or so minutes here with Darkfire and the resident rock star Sean Dovey. And again, if you like what you hear from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, please give WCE a follow at Wrestling Championship Entertainment on Facebook, WCEHeat.com. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And also continue to like us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. We've just reached the 500 follower milestone, so thank you everybody for that. And also, next Saturday evening, we'll be back here with more Wrestling Championship sort of coverage, I guess, or somebody that JDT had mentioned, and his name is James Zayden. So he's going to come on here next Saturday and speak about his wrestling journey and speak about some of the things here that I think Mr. JDT has said. So we'll get his perspective on it, and I certainly look forward to hearing from this individual who has reached out to us here after what JDT has had to say about him. So tune in here to all of our platforms, but we do have some more comments before I get to Darkfire. This individual who we think we know says, hello, Darkfire. And also, this individual who we may or may not know says, Darkfire is a great wrestler. He had a great career in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He's a hard worker in the ring, and he's a future breakout star. Darkfire, before I get to the Kodak Kid talk, that is kind of what I've heard about you from different guys and gals in the locker room over the past few months, is that you're a hard worker and you're like right there. You're almost like on the cusp. It's almost like you're like Austin Theory without the personality almost. Hopefully you don't not cash in the Money in the Bank. I mean, hopefully you don't blow that. But you kind of feel that also? Do you kind of feel like that the tide has changed for you? The tide has turned a bit?
Well, what was that? Sorry.
I said, do you feel like that the tide has turned for you and kind of how people perceive you and kind of like how people look at you right now in terms of going into Wrestling Championship Entertainment for the future of your career?
Oh, yeah, it definitely has changed. Yes, I have to say it definitely has changed a lot.
All right, well, let's hope it continues. Let's hope that it certainly builds. And I want to speak about things here that I think everyone's been talking here in the world here. It's not even just in WCE, but also in professional wrestling. That is, what happened to Kodak Kid? And certainly Kodak Kid took a beating for the ages. And, I got to ask you guys about that. I mean, so Darkfire, I mean, what was your impressions to what happened with Kodak Kid? We certainly spoke a little bit about that last week on the show with JDT and Craven Rage. And, what was your impressions of that?
Very tragic, emotional, bad.
I miss Kodak.
I miss him very much.
And I saw that you guys actually, especially you, Sean Jovi, had almost, I guess, the funeral for Kodak Kid, if you want to call it that way. I mean,
I don't know. I did it more of as a joke. Kodak was in on it, so he was like, well, since I'm injured, you might as well just write me off and say I'm dead. I'm like, all right, we'll do a vlog on that.
Well, certainly Dead Man Walking would be the case here. And before we get to your vlog,
Kodak's for harmony in making of my vlog.
Well, certainly before I get to the Sean Jovi thought, I want to get into one of your supporters that says, oh my God, it's Sean Jovi. What's up, my big dog brother from, is it Racine or Racine, Wisconsin?
Racine.
Racine, Wisconsin. Yours truly, quote, the Antichrist forevermore. So certainly,
Antichrist.
Yeah, smoking the BZ for my awesome friend Sean Jeezy. LOL. I think I know who this individual is now. Now that I got the hint, so I certainly will say that. And I guess changing topics real quick. What is Racine, Wisconsin like for a guy like me in New York who knows very little about Racine, Wisconsin?
I know
What's it
nothing
like?
I know nothing about Racine at all.
We're actually from Green Bay.
We're actually from Green
Oh,
Bay.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
what's
we're
Green
from
Bay?
Green-
Well, what's Green Bay like? I mean, I know Lambeau Field. I mean, I always always have a vested interest in rooting for the Packers because of you guys, really. But I mean, what's Green Bay like?
Well, when the Packers aren't losing, it's a lot happier.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't know what the score is
Sean
now. I
Jovi
turned
said,
it off
yeah.
before we went on, but I mean, Green Bay is a very interesting place. There's not a lot going on.
Nothing.
Like it's not like a major city where there's always something to do. But we have our own amusement park. We have Lambeau. We have many. What are the words? Breweries.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
That's
There's a lot of
pretty cool.
bars and stuff like that. It's a very hopping town and definitely rated in the top drunkest countries in America.
You mean?
Well, okay, all right.
That is statistically proven.
Well, that's pretty cool. And I always have to ask, and I'll probably make you guys chuckle because I heard this years ago, and I've always kind of been curious. Now that I speak to you guys, and you're from Green Bay, are you guys actually by chance stockholders or owners of the Green Bay Packers? Because the Packers are actually a publicly owned team. I mean, are you guys actually stockholders by any chance?
I think my dad is, and he might have stock in my name. I know my dad does, and there might be stock in my name that maybe he didn't tell me. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. Okay, that's pretty cool.
If he doesn't tell me, that's probably smart because I would have sold it a long time.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And I did admire the Packers trading cards that you had in your most recent vlog as well. So I will give you a nod for that. And certainly, it has at least been a good run for the Packers the last 30 years. For us here, I tend to lean more for the Jets than the Giants. I won't bring up Giants-Packers playoff pass, but the Jets,
I was at that game.
I figured that was going to come up, but certainly.
I was there.
Certainly, being somebody like myself who kind of leans toward the Jets, there really hasn't been much home to write about at all, to say the least. But Nicholas Krentz, who's going to be here with us in about 15 or so minutes, says Kodak Kid will more than likely be back. Honestly, Craven is a smart man, but now he gave Kodak a reason to not hold back, and that makes him a moron. Do you agree with that, the resident rock star Sean Joby? I feel like right now Craven Rage is a little bit for the first time on his heels. I'm sure Kodak Kid one day will have something to say, and I feel like JDT has certainly made Craven Rage kind of think a little bit that he's got some competition here a little bit right now in WCE.
I think Kodak has all the makings of a big star. If there's one person who could call themselves a face of a company, besides me, I would think Kodak would have a run for my money. His popularity definitely spiked before his injury and before he was taken out. It's a shame because he was really on the rise.
Yeah, we had him on.
We've had our differences, but at the end of the day, I definitely respect him as a competitor, and he's earned my respect for him as a person. Absolutely.
And I have to ask you that as a follow-up, and maybe I'll ask Darkfire the same question here. I mean, what did you make of management's decision, basically? I don't know if it's tied toward it or not, but management's decision basically to say JDT and Craven Rage cannot touch each other at all right now, basically until if they ever square foot in the ring. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, not my problem.
Fair enough. Listen, fair enough. I mean,
they're both big, scary competitors in their own right, and I wouldn't blame them being separate. Blame management for separating them. They're both scary competitors. Like, I wouldn't want to get in the middle of that if I'm not wrestling,
Well, Darkfire, you certainly stepped foot in the ring with Craven Rage, and certainly he has been the rage here of WCE. Obviously, he has been he's called himself the ruler of the yard, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and he's definitely shown that he's had certainly the year that many people would love to have, not just in WCE but in the wrestling world. But I mean, I guess I'd have to say then, do you think management made the right decision? I mean, you've been in the ring with Craven Rage. I mean, you think that Craven and JDT, they shouldn't be crossing paths at all anytime soon, or what do you think?
No, they shouldn't. They're dangerous men.
With titles.
With titles.
I think that's the other reason why they shouldn't touch each other. To go face to face. They're both champions. And we don't need someone walking around with 3 belts.
Oh my God, no.
It's already bad enough that
Let's not give management some ideas here. Let's just not give management
we
any
don't need a
more
Roman Reigns
ideas.
in our Fed.
Listen, let's certainly not do that. And Mr. Crenson has to say it's a smart move by management because you don't want your 2 top wrestlers, your 2 top champions, risking taking each other out because then you can lose one or both of your title matches. And then also Dark Fire for WCE president. I mean, Dark Fire, are you running for president? I mean, would you want to run for WCE president?
What?
Would you want to run for WCE president, Dark Fire? I mean, you're going to put your name out there? I mean,
No.
people might get behind you here.
No, I wouldn't run for president. No.
Well, for WCE president, how about that? Would you want to run for WCE president? I mean,
maybe.
All right, well, you know what? You never know. Never say never, as Vince McMahon used to famously say it. JDT looks like he bites people. Keep him in his cage. Well, he's the chairman. I tell you what. JDT right now is on quite a run. But I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for a few more minutes with the resident rock star, Sean Jovi and Dark Fire. And certainly what a action-packed interview that has been here on Sportswire Radio and different things here that we're talking about. In about 10 or so minutes, we will hear from Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, who always has a lot to say. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. The resident rock star, Sean Jovi, I wanted to ask you, is there maybe from this year, I know it's been a big year, it's been an interesting year, it's been a colorful year, and certainly another time we'll talk about some other favorite matches you've had throughout your career. Maybe go down memory lane and we'll kind of talk about the match and you can pick it out with me and we'll do that for sure. But was there one or two maybe moments that stood out most? You know, if this was the year in 2022 that made the year stand out for me, is there one or two moments this year you think that stood out most for you?
Easily. And the biggest one was the 3 Doors Down match with Craven Rage. Yeah, I came up short. Yeah, I didn't win. But the 3 Doors Down match was actually a match I invented. It was the first time idea like I've had, and I was like, you know, I'm a resident rock star. I like rock music. Why not make a match revolved around some rock and roll? So what I do, I ripped off 3 Doors Down and made a match out of it. It was fun, but like, I don't know, it was a weird idea, but it actually worked out, I think, a lot better than I thought. Having the 3 doors and then not have pinfalls or submissions until all 3 are down. And I like that idea because it gives the fans excitement because you know at least 3 doors are going to be broken in this match. Guaranteed. Indeed. Before any winner is declared. And that's why I creatively picked that. Now the match with Craven, I would say that's probably my top 3 or 4 matches of all time I've had. As far as performance-wise.
You got a long career.
As much as I don't care for Craven as a wrestler, and as much as him and I have had our feud in the past, I will say he brings out the best in me. Absolutely, every time.
Yeah, I know that Nicholas Crenson talks about James Marshall, Catalyst. Certainly, that was a match that we kind of referenced in kind of what ifs here in terms of when you look back with COVID. But there is something about you and Craven. There's just something there. It's almost in a way like you guys complement each other. In a way, it's almost like, again, I think about as a kid, the Bulls and the Knicks, or I think about in sports, I think about the Packers and the Bears. I think about there's certain rivalries, there's certain feuds. Yankees, Red Sox. I mean, you think about certain feuds, Blackhawks and Blues in the NHL. I mean, there's just certain feuds or certain rivalries. Michigan, Ohio State. You guys, in a lot of ways, are almost like that. Wisconsin and Michigan, another example for our Wisconsin fans here. I mean, so there's something there about you and Craven Rage that it has to be revisited. But for you, Dark Fire, I want to ask you the same question. I mean, is there a moment or two that stood out most for you and said, you know what, this is what I'm going to remember most about 2022?
Probably my 16th year anniversary match with Sean.
And that's another one of mine too.
That's a good one. That's a good one. It's a great one. I think that's a match we're going to certainly, and that's kind of why I think it's the most emotional match at WCE this year. I also think it kind of shows why you guys are almost like the meat and potatoes of the company, where you guys are really kind of like the glue that holds everything. You guys are so important in a lot of different ways that maybe goes beyond championships. And I have to ask you guys a fun question here before I get to closing thoughts. And what was it like for you, Sean Jovi, being in a corn maze? I mean, I had to ask because I'm from New York. I had to ask, right? Because I'm from New York.
That was a good
I
vlog.
was just all day today in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in Brooklyn. I live in Staten Island. So I'm the farthest thing from a corn maze in Wisconsin, right? So I
Yeah.
have to ask, right? I mean, I could be
Climate
as much
thing.
I'm as much as a foreigner as anybody else in this case. So what's that like walking through a corn maze? I have to ask.
Honestly, this was my first corn maze I remember going through.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So I'm not
Since I was
the
a kid, a couple of my friends that are also big fans of WCE, we decided to meet up. We were gonna shoot a vlog, and we are like, hey, let's just do something fun for the season. Best thing we could come up with is a corn maze. So we searched and high and low for a corn maze around. Closest one was like I think a half hour out from where I'm at.
Wow.
Yeah, we drove around aimlessly looking for a corn maze.
Yeah, we did.
It was pretty crazy. But the corn maze itself was interesting. It's kind of weird. Just basically, you're entering this maze, and the only thing around you is just stalks and stalks and stalks of corn. And what they do is they plow paths. So like, there's like a pathway, so you can navigate through it. Otherwise, all the corn stalks are like neck and neck. You can't really navigate through it otherwise. So you end on one end, go through the other. Honestly, the maze was not that hard, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. We found the exit with only hitting a couple dead ends, if I remember right. Pretty much the whole maze was on the entire vlog. I barely cut any of it out.
No, it was so fascinating because my first thought was, I think was it Super Mario Brothers 3? I think was a corn maze. I'm pretty sure there was one of the early Mario games that had a corn maze. But I'm like saying, wow, this guy didn't get like scared. He didn't get like
I mean, there's really nothing scary about a corn maze. I mean, at night maybe if they have ghouls popping out, but it's not really a haunted house per se. It's just kind of like a fall activity that people like to do for fun.
Is there like a tourist attraction where you guys are, or is it big? Is it big of a deal, or
in general, or just
in general? Yeah, is it a big deal?
Like corn mazes? No,
Not really.
Not really. Honestly, I haven't heard about one of those in a million
All
years
right.
until it got brought up.
Well, I had to listen. I had to bring it up, and certainly,
right.
Nicholas
farming's a big thing here. Farming is a big thing.
Wolverine.
I think Nicholas Crenson, I know will be here in a few minutes. And Sean Jovi is the best rock star of wrestling championship entertainment. And with his history in the ring, he will rise to the top of the set. Well, there's no question that Sean Jovi's got quite a resume. He's got quite a history. And a number of wrestlers here in this company have quite a history. But the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, may very well have one of the most interesting histories of them all. And that's why we're certainly very, very delighted to have had him back here on Sportswire Radio alongside Mr. Dark Fire. So certainly, gentlemen, I know you guys are getting ready for the Pokemon stream, and Nicholas Crenson's going to be here shortly right afterwards. So Dark Fire, I want to go with you first. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything that you'd like to plug, share, say, anything toward, let's say, fans of WCE or anybody else that's watching or listening and hearing you for the first time?
I don't know. Let me think. Well, I'm lost. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll make you feel better.
I'm nervous.
I'm going to make you feel better, Darkfire. And I was telling you guys this here before we get to closing thoughts. There's two thoughts. The first one was I'm at a bar last night, not too far from where I live, and I'm speaking to a girl we follow each other on Instagram. We kind of know each other, acquaintances, right? She goes, "You." I said, "Yeah, me." She says, "You're a podcaster. You're the guy that speaks to all these wrestlers in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I watched the one with Sean Jovi and the one with Craven Rage, and like, wow, what's it like speaking to them?" I said, "Well, you can go and follow them on Facebook at Wrestling Championship Entertainment, WCE Heat, and make sure you follow them." And today, I was at someone's house for a meeting, and this little woman, her name's Tina, but Tina Noor, who, if she's listening, from Marine Park in Brooklyn, goes, "I'm a fan of wrestling." And I said, "I didn't know that." She goes on and says, "Well, I watched WCE Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I was watching some of these guys' stuff. So you know what? You never know out there. So get over your nervousness. Let your heart not be troubled. As Ronald Reagan used to always famously say, and John F. Kennedy, a rising tide always lifts all boats, and your boat is going to be lifted, Darkfire. So let your heart not be troubled. Next time, you'll have much more to say, and I'm sure that we'll talk about some other memories and moments because I do think it's going to be a very, very big year for you, and we thank you for this opportunity. The resident rock star, Sean Jovi, a man that certainly has plenty to say as always. Certainly, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. One more time, plug your YouTube page so we can go get more followers. Also, buy some merchandise. I'm going to make sure I buy a shirt that Sean Jovi has on because we want to support Sean Jovi. All the great things.
It actually isn't in production anymore, but it's an old one.
Well, there are shirts on the page.
They're out there.
They're out there. Make sure you buy them.
I'm making new ones for next year, too.
But I want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I can't thank you enough as always. And I know we'll have you on here before the year is out and talk about, maybe we'll talk about that off the air, about a match or two that you want to review with me. And we'll do that throughout the offseason, pick out some of the collection in the archives. And floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Tom. I'd like to thank the fans of WCE and Sportswire Radio for giving me the time to discuss all this stuff. It's been great. Please be sure to follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/Sean Jovi. You can follow me there as well. Just search Sean Jovi. It's the Jovi's vlog picture. Same thing with YouTube. Just search Sean Jovi or Sean Jovi Stelby. You'll find me easily. I'm not hard to find.
And this is the Jovi, ladies and gentlemen, that you want to follow. This is the Jovi that's the future. We love Bon Jovi, but always we want to make sure we support Sean Jovi. So we're definitely not living on a prayer with the resident rock star Sean Jovi. We are definitely keeping the faith with Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and we are definitely going to get wild in the streets because it's the life of Sean Jovi. I really tried my best there. That was a good one. Listen, I was off the fly. I basically worked in as many Bon Jovi references as I could. So I have to say, I was listening.
That's awesome.
But for you, we'll definitely do anything. But one more comment before we get to Nicholas Grunton. People have to remember Darkfire set a record with the most views in match Wrestling Championship Entertainment history.
That's
and he
right.
set
2,300 views.
Well, what does that mean to you, Darkfire?
Means a lot, actually. One of the most viewed matches in WC has. What did you say, Jovi?
2,300 views, I think. Last I checked.
2,300 views. Yeah.
And honestly, I would say that was your best match too.
That was my best match too. Yeah, like Sean Jovi said, it was my best match, and yeah, I was impressed. I was blown away about how many views it got. I really was.
When you have something like that, there's people from all over the world that are watching the content. This isn't just WCE fans. You're talking about 2,300 plus views. That's a large audience. Not many people can say they've had that kind of success. I mean, I have one interview out there with a boxer that was a world champion. I think might have just got that many, maybe. But not many people can say they've had that kind of support. I mean, you must get asked a lot about that, Darkfire, no?
No, I don't really. I don't.
Okay, well, you know what we just did for you, so certainly I'm sure somebody else will one day. But, gentlemen, I want to thank you here for this opportunity. We'll certainly speak more.
Thank you for the opportunity, Reverend. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And Sean Jovi will get you back on here for more coverage of your matches. We'll go down memory lane with, and we'll definitely tune in 12 o'clock to make sure we catch the Pokemon stream, and we're going to let you run because you got to prepare for that. So we thank everybody for having Sean Jovi, the resident rock star here in Darkfire, and I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio. We are going to now bring on the new Messiah, ladies and gentlemen, with what do I do here on the Sports Report? Number one, Level Sports Show. He is the new Messiah, Nicholas Grunton. My friend, How are you?
I'm doing good, Reverend Tom. How are you?
We'll see how my voice holds up in about 50 or so minutes. Because that's like the 7th time I've done that. I was at a bar last night, and people were asking me, "Wow, how do you do those intros?" And I wound up doing like 17 times over. So we'll see in about 50 or so minutes. But a lot to get into here with you, my friend. Obviously, Darkfire. You heard some of those comments, but I want to get into the video last weekend first that you cut on the Wrestling Championship Entertainment page, where you basically kind of went off and certainly went to town, and certainly I think it kind of gives the springboard of maybe where we're going to here in the off season, and talk about the video and the inspirations and some other things you might want to add toward it.
So, the video that I just released, right?
Yeah, this past weekend, correct.
Look at my weekend. Look at my weekend back at Fighter Fright.
I might maybe the most successful weekend of anybody. Back-to-back big wins.
I tapped out Adonis Filios. I choked out Darkfire. And I after the match with Darkfire, I literally looked in the camera and I said to both James and JDT, I call next.
Both.
And it's not a fact of, oh, I think I deserve that shot because I won both matches. No, I deserve that shot because I'm the toughest guy in WCE right now. I am the most dangerous man in WCE right now. And to be fair to our new interstate champion, I'm the only one who left him lying like a corpse this year.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, because you certainly make some interesting points, and you might even make some valid points there. Do you feel like, let's say, ending this year here in 2022, you're the guy that is in the position to even dethrone, let's just say, not even JDT, but even Craven Rage? Because, I mean, you certainly, and I'd asked you this question in the past, and I feel like it might even be more prevalent now, and I probably have answered my own question, but I feel like right now, you're going into the off season with all the momentum right now. I mean, if JDT goes in the ring with you, or even a Craven Rage, but especially a JDT, maybe his run is going to end before it even starts.
See, and here's the funny thing. I do have all the momentum right now because of those two victories, but also it's because I am focused on one thing, and that's becoming a champion. And right now, JDT is the champion that I'm choosing to target. Craven, don't worry. I'll eventually get to you again. And honestly, I have to thank Craven for this, because back at
Craven Rage,
Achievement, we had that match, and it taught me that I wasn't digging deep enough. It taught me that I needed to really reach down deep and pull out a part of me that I thought I had dead and buried. And it took that. It took those battles with James Marshall. It took all these things just piling on top of each other to make me realize that if I want to win, if I want to be on the top, frankly, I just stop giving a damn and go after everybody I want.
Interesting that you thanked Craven Rage there. Interesting. But I want to go back to something, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but you kind of said something that was interesting there. So I want to get your thoughts. JDT, I'm sure you heard in last week's show, this was his first singles championship in his 25-year career. The last time you won a major singles championship, correct me if I'm wrong, was just about 16 years ago. So I would have to think that the
January 21st, 2006. I was 17 years old.
Okay, so we're talking, like I just said, about 16 years ago, right? 16 plus years ago. So my point is that after seeing JDT win his first singles championship in his 25-year career, you've got to have even more motivation than you've ever had before to win a title. Because if JDT did it, I mean, I guess you got to be next, no?
It's not just winning the title. That isn't good enough for me. It's never going to be good enough just to win the title. For me, it's always going to be, I want to be considered a champion. And a champion is somebody who can hold on to the title as much as possible. And that's where JDT is going to face his real test next season, because he's got it. That's the easy part. That's getting there is the easy part. It's keeping yourself there. That's the hard part.
You know, it's funny you said that, because I've often heard that a lot, whether it's somebody who gets to the top in the music world or somebody who gets to the top in the political world or any other world, that getting there is great, right? You all make it. But then to stay on top takes a lot. It takes a lot more than you realize. And I kind of think JDT, in a way, was kind of feeling some of that heat when we mentioned James Aiden and kind of that background. We didn't even know much about this guy. And JDT, for the first time, he seemed like he saw a ghost. And before I get to James Marshall's comment, I mean, maybe JDT's not so much worried about you, but he might be worried about a guy, James Aiden, who, by the way, Nicholas Krentz, the new Messiah, he's with us next Saturday night on Sportswire Radio. So I think JDT, you know what? Maybe he won't even make it to past the offseason. Who knows?
Of course there's another James. There always has to be more than one James.
People like being named James, I guess, right? James is a popular name.
The problem with me, and JDT is going to very seldomly learn this, is I can read people. And as soon as you mention that name to him, I already have my ammo on him. I already have my ammo on JDT to push his buttons to get him in the ring for a match for the title. I already have that ammo with the fact that I have him beat in one-on-one competition in a last man standing match. So he, at some point he's going to want to get that win back on me, but also I don't just target one person. I will target their entire life. And, somebody stole his chair. Lovely. Who cares? Honestly, that's just child game compared to what I can do. And
all right,
I will get my hands on JDT again. And I'm not going to be dumb and, braggadocious and say, oh, I guarantee I'm going to win. No, I'm going to beat the living hell out of him. And hey, I think I'm going to win, but I don't guarantee it, because honestly, if you guarantee something, you're more than likely not going to deliver.
I'm glad you did bring that up, because, all too often in sports, I've seen all these different players that say, yeah, I'm going to guarantee a win. And before I get to James Marshall, I never forget, as a little kid growing up in Brooklyn, I was a New York Knicks fan. And Patrick Ewing famously guaranteed a win against Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic. And what did the Knicks do the next day? They lost. And all the New York tabloids said, what was this guy Ewing doing? Guaranteeing a win for the Knicks, and they wind up losing. So that was maybe the smartest thing you've said all season. I think I'm going to win, but I can't guarantee a win. But let me get to James Marshall, Catalyst. Obviously, Mr. Marshall, of course, who was our reigning defending interstate champion for quite a while, and somebody that you have had quite a war with in the past. He says, well, read between my index and ring finger. We'll maybe cross paths again. Maybe you cross Catalyst's path. Either way, people will tune in. You know what? I agree. I have to think. Maybe the match I enjoyed most this season, now I'm thinking about it, was you and him in the Iron Man match. I have to say that was, people said, the Three Doors Down match and other matches that came to mind. Obviously, even JDT and Craven most recently, and JDT and Marshall himself, Catalyst, and I mean, your match with Darkfire even, but there's a lot of matches I could go on, but that might have been the match that I kind of think in some ways had the most maybe meaning to it for a title. I mean, what do you think on that?
Honestly, that was my toughest match this year. And James Marshall, Catalyst, either one are tough opponents. I will say I do worry more when I have to face James Marshall than I do with Catalyst. But
Tell me why. Tell me why that is.
Catalyst is the one that comes out when he doesn't have to worry, when he doesn't need to go into desperation mode. When James Marshall is the one you're facing, you know he's taking it seriously. Like when when you're facing the unhinged James Marshall, it's best example I'll give you, and this is considering he's about to retire soon, is Keiji Muto and Great Muta. And we know Great Muta came into US all the time.
Oh yeah, sure.
The Great Muta in Japan was saved for like the most desperate times for Keiji Muto. It's kind of like Demon Finn Balor. That's another one you could give it.
Okay. The American
it's kind of funny though, because Catalyst is the calmer of the two with the mask, and the actual James Marshall is the one that is the more violent of the two.
Interesting, because they certainly both have their strengths, but maybe in some ways you could certainly see why one would favor the other. And I want to bring in an individual that may or may not know some talent in WCE. Says, well, as a huge fan of Craven Rage, I have to say Nicholas Crenson, the so-called Messiah, he isn't strong enough to bring down JDT. What do you say toward that? When somebody just now says, you know what? Yeah, Nicholas Crenson, he's a strong talent. He may or may not be the new Messiah, but regardless of whether he is or isn't, he can't knock down JDT. I mean, I guess the one way you could look at it is Craven struggled to get through JDT, but what would that mean for Nicholas Crenson?
See, Craven struggled. Last time I fought JDT, I came out on top.
Good point.
That's not knocking JDT. JDT is one tough SOB. He will hit you harder than anybody. He will bring everything to the table to beat you. And that's actually what makes it so intriguing for me, because I'm going to bring everything to the table to beat him and get that title. Whether, I will become a champion sooner rather than later, and I will go through hell to get that title. And I'll also put people through hell to get the title.
But I have to ask you a question, and you're right. You've beaten JDT, and you do have that. They always say that you have a feather in your cap, and you almost mentally you have the advantage, right? Psychologically, you have the advantage. I always think about when we were in college. If you were in college and you took psychology, they'd always say Psych 101. That would always be, if you were in there with somebody, you've basically got them basically right where you want them. But, I mean, how much have you watched, though, that Craven JDT match back? I know we've spoken about it off the air, but I kind of feel like watching the match that I saw, it's a different JDT than the one you faced. Now, you were going to say, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Tom, it's a different Nicholas Crenson in terms of what you've done in the ring since. But, I mean, Craven Rage, there was points in the match. He was like, do you go down? He was like, what gives? I mean, so how much have you gone back and watched that match and maybe kind of figured out what you may need to do differently?
I didn't just watch that match. I've watched every JDT match that happened this season. I watched his toe strap match with Kodak. I watched both his matches with Dash. I rewatched the Last Man Standing match. I've watched the TLC over and over again. But the one that I keep going back to is the match where he beat James Catalyst for the title.
Yep, that was the last match of the year. That was literally the last match of the year in WCE.
Because he is the chairman. He is, he likes to carry that chair around. I also like to call him a mechanical mercenary because he's like a mechanic in the ring when it comes to technical skill. And I like that because it gives me something to pick apart. It gives me something challenging to destroy. And watching his matches back, I know, when I eventually face him in the ring, that it's not going to be the same JDT I faced in that last man standing match. Just like he knows the Nicholas Crenson that he gets when he faces me in the ring again isn't going to be the same he faced in the last man standing match. We're just going to kick each other's butts and beat each other senseless until one of us is left as the champion. And once I get that shot, he is in for his toughest fight. Don't give me anything about no not a knock to them, but Craven, James, eventually, Sean Jovi will probably get it. Kodak, no, I'm going to be his toughest fight because I am going to pick him apart both physically and mentally.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I think that this comment certainly very well might speak for itself, and that the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, will win a belt next year. It's his time. Bet. I would certainly not want to bet against Nicholas Crenson. And James Marshall certainly has something to say. I do have a match with Sean Jovi that is under contract to happen. Also, I have a rematch clause to challenge JDT. Maybe hit two birds with stone next season. I'll talk to management and Commissioner Mark Packer about those. I mean, just to kind of get your thought on that, I mean, if you're James Marshall, do you go to do you want Jovi right away, or do you automatically go rematch clause? JDT, what do you do there?
That's a tough one.
If it were
Probably
me, I would wait on the rematch clause. I would wait. Here's the reason why I would wait. I would wait because JDT, you said it a few minutes ago. You said it very well. JDT, now he's champion, but it's going to be very tough for him to stay on the mountain. He doesn't know what it's like to be on top. He's going to have people coming for him left and right. He's not going to hang on from what you said that long because he's got James Zayden now, who he's terrified of, right? He spoke about him. You got Marshall out there waiting in the wings. You're waiting out the wings. You said you got next. You know that Dark Fire, Sean Jovi are going to make their cases. I mean, there's pretty much a litany of people that say, you know what? I want JDT. Craven's shown that he's been the man. He's the guy. He's the ruler. But this JDT guy is his first singles title in 25 years. What does he know?
25-year chip on the shoulder.
Yeah.
That he is at this point where now that he's champion, he's really going to get to learn where the real hell of being a champion is. It's like you said, everybody's gunning for him now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, there's no question that, look, congratulations to him, and certainly it definitely meant a lot. We saw the mutual respect that he and Catalyst had, but I mean, it's going to be very tough for him to stay on top here because everybody's coming for him. Everybody's gunning for him. And let me get to another comment. But honestly, even though you won the match against JDT, Craven Rage destroyed Nicholas Crenson and has wrecked, conquered, and smashed everyone, and there's no one, and especially self-proclaimed Messiah, can bring down a champion. I think Darkfire can accomplish what others have failed to do. From you of all people, I knew that was coming. I mean, what you've said about Darkfire, what you've shown to prove about Darkfire, that last part's got to certainly ruffle your feathers a little bit there, the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson.
Right now, and Darkfire can do what he wants, just as long as he stays out of my business. Craven can do what he wants as long as he stays out of my business. Once either of those two make me their problem, Craven, yeah, he destroyed me. He destroyed me at the beginning of the last season here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not the same person I was back then. I learn from my mistakes. I learn from every loss I have, every victory I have. I learn from every match I have. The reason why I call myself the new Messiah of Backyard Wrestling is because I'm an ever-evolving state. I am an ever-evolving being when it comes to what I can do in the ring. So, Darkfire, just stay out of my way for now, and we won't have a problem. Craven, you want a problem? I will murder you this time. You want me in the ring? I will murder you. And then finally, JDT, be prepared, because once I get that title shot, you're going to experience hell on earth in the form of my elbows, my kicks, my punches, and my technical skill, because I am going to get my shot, and I'm going to bring the best fight to you've ever had.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, extremely strong words here tonight. Once again on Sportswire Radio from the new Messiah, Nicholas Krenzen, and I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. If you are on Facebook, continue to give us a like on Sportswire Radio at Facebook. And I want to thank everybody again because, as I pointed out earlier in the show, we recently surpassed the 500 follower mark for the Sportswire Radio page. So I want to thank everybody for putting us over that milestone. It's a tremendous accomplishment. I want to thank all of our supporters throughout the world here. We'll also be back tomorrow afternoon and evening with wrestling coverage from our friends over at KOW. They're getting ready for their 10th year anniversary show. And get this match. We're going to have a knockout or tap out match between the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, who, by the way, was a boxing star in the UK, a boxing world champion, against the Ronin, Brian Aidenson, who looks like he could have been either an MMA or a boxing champion, but he's a big-time wrestling star. They're going to have a match, which arguably I think could be the main event in any company. So we're going to speak with RPD literally just 24 hours away from that. So I want to make sure everybody tunes into that. I also want to make sure everybody tunes in to our friend, the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, in about 25 minutes, because he's going to have a brand new stream for the brand new Pokemon game, which I know that the new Messiah, Nicholas Krenzen, will have a vested interest in. So we're going to make sure we get him off the stream so he can check out that stream. I'm going to check out that stream. If you're here on Facebook, you need to be checking out that stream. You can do that by searching Sean Jovi. You can also do that by searching WCE Heat, which you can do for YouTube. Facebook at Wrestling Championship Entertainment, WCEHeat.com, and we are going to have coverage throughout the offseason of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and I'm excited about it. So should you be. We are going to be speaking with literally everybody there is, and we are speaking right now with the new Messiah, Nicholas Krenzen, and James Marshall says, better than Butterbean? I don't know. What was the reference here in better than Butterbean? What did, I have to ask here, what was our reference to what's better than Butterbean?
Butterbean, tough man competition.
Right, I know. He was in WrestleMania 15. That I know. He knocked out. He basically ended Mark Merrow's wrestling career. But I was just curious, in what actually are we saying better than Butterbean for? That was my point. I'm well aware of Eric Esch, aka Butterbean. I don't know, but I guess he'll let us know. But JDT has a big target on this. That's exactly what we spoke about from the very beginning with you, and even with Sean Jovi and Darkfire. Well, as a fan of Craven Rage, I know that Craven Rage will definitely make you fall to him again. I mean, look, we'll find out. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there is going to certainly want to see you and Craven Rage get out there in the ring, and something tells me I'm sure Craven Rage is going to have a thought or two on that. But I wanted to switch gears here while we have you for a little while longer, and I'm sure you've heard about this video that was posted out there on social media through Wrestling Championship Entertainment's channels about the attack on Kodak Kid and everything else that went on about it. And I know obviously you didn't really have anything to do with it. It really wasn't involving you, but just curious, what your thoughts were on that and just kind of how it all unfolded.
How do I say this? I mentioned it in a comment earlier while you had Jovi and Darkfire on. Craven is a smart man, but he is probably the dumbest smart man I've ever met because
wow.
I've been in the ring with Kodak. I know Kodak. I've been in the ring with Craven. Craven, I took it easy on you.
And was it Kodak's brother also?
Shut your
you
mouth
were in the
when you
ring with
talk.
Also, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think I heard you say that on one stream with Kodak's brother as well. Correct?
I was in a tag team with Kodak Kid's brother, Dandy Dan.
Yep, that's my point.
But here's where Craven is a moron. He looked him in the eye, and he basically kind of let Kodak know who was doing it. And you give a kid motivation to hurt you. Like before, it was just about, for Kodak, it was just about being a champion. Now Craven has a bigger target on him because knowing Kodak, he's going to be back. I know him. But now Craven has a bigger target on his head because Kodak's not coming back just for the title. Kodak's coming back to basically get revenge on Craven. And, if he thought that Kodak was his toughest opponent, for when he was just trying to win the championship, imagine what it would be like if you make it personal. You make it not about the title. You give Kodak a reason to want to hurt you, then you've got to worry. Especially if you don't know what you're dealing with. And Craven might think he knows what he's dealing with, but trust me, he has no idea what he's in for.
That's interesting.
It's just a waiting game now.
It's interesting because I think for the first time, just like how we spoke about JDT and James Aiden, we've seen, in a way, Craven Rage maybe on his heels for a little bit for the first time. Because now, Kodak Kid eventually, right? We're assuming one day, right? Kodak Kid is going to want to get his due, his just. Then we saw JDT, what he did to Craven Rage, and kind of standing for as long as possible. So maybe, just maybe here on Sportswire Radio, we have our two champions, but they're going to certainly have a long off season where they're going to have to ponder these scenarios. And James Marshall says making quesadillas and heard someone has a good boxing fighting background. So to answer that question again, James Marshall, I would have to say that RPD, the natural born fighter, RP Davis in terms of Butterbean, two totally different fighters. But I would say that RPD has definitely the better boxing background, even though Butterbean could throw a punch, maybe a little better than RPD. But RPD and his agility, his quickness, how he can move would probably have a little bit of the edge. But they're two totally different fighters. But yes, RPD was a boxing star in the UK. His father actually was a boxer and a trainer also. But that's here nor there. You can listen to that tomorrow afternoon here in the United States. It'll be 8 o'clock British Standard Time. But James Marshall says we can agree on the same thing, Crenson. Craven is a smart idiot. How can you be a smart idiot, though? Wouldn't that just make you an idiot?
You can be a smart person and still do dumb
And you wouldn't
stuff.
be a smart idiot. You would just be an idiot, no?
Because even smart people make mistakes, and
True.
really, Craven made the biggest mistake. Like, I even admit when I faced Craven the first time I faced Craven, I made the mistake of taking him too lightly. That ain't happening again.
Okay, all right. I could certainly see why you'd say that. I wanted to ask you this question though, and I asked obviously Craven this question. I had also asked Darkfire, Sean Jovi, and I'd asked a wrestler a couple of days ago in the UK this question. And I'm sure I'll ask everybody here throughout the year, and I'll probably get you on, I would imagine, one more time before the end of the year. But to be safe, I want to ask you this question. How did you feel your overall 2022 win for you in WCE?
Honestly, I'll say this. This is probably one of my best years in wrestling, just because I really got to challenge myself and do things that I never thought I could do again.
Okay.
This is 18 years for me, and next year it's going to be 19. And really, for me, I think my year went well. Like, it didn't end it the way I like to, but, I ended on a high note. I tapped out Adonis Filios. I choked out Darkfire. I will eventually get a shot at JDT, and hey, maybe eventually I'll get a shot at Craven again. I don't care if he has the belt, really. I just want to fight Craven because I want to beat the living hell out of him. But honestly, 2022 was just the beginning, because we've got 2023 to come. We got stuff like Luck of the Draw. We've got we got Vindication, we got Ring Destruction 2, we got the second anniversary show. We've got all these wonderful shows next year, and our talent pool is just getting bigger and bigger, which means more people for me to beat up, which I love that idea.
I'll tell you what, I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. And obviously, the talent in wrestling championship entertainment is second to none. As I've continued to say, this is the best roster in all of professional wrestling. Listen, WWE, AEW's roster, MLW's roster, Impact's roster wishes they could have the kind of talent that we have here in wrestling championship entertainment. It is second to none. And James Marshall also says Craven made the same mistake of going easy on Craven last year. So Catalyst may have made the same mistake, but that's certainly that. Catalyst will have to answer that, and I'm sure that Catalyst will be on here very soon before the year is out. But talking about some of the things that you did and obviously how you felt about the year. So I'm going to ask you, going into 2023, how do you use this as a springboard to have an even better 23?
Simple. Cause as much mayhem as possible, and make it so everybody remembers 2023 as the year of Nicholas Crenson, because I will get my chance at the title. I will get my chance to show everybody why I call myself the new Messiah, and I will get my chance to walk out a champion at some point, because really next year it's just hitting the ground running, and I'm going to go all out next year to get everything I want.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, certainly it is a strong case that Nicholas Crenson has made, that 23 is going to continue where 22 left off. I would definitely feel confident about that, considering what we've seen, especially toward the second half, the end of the second half from the year of the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. That, listen, whether I'm Catalyst, whether I'm JDT, whether I'm Craven Rage, whether I'm anybody else, Sean Jovi, you name him, Nicholas Crenson very well could be the one that knocks them all down. And I did want to ask you, in terms of, I mean, was there a moment or two that maybe stood out most this year for you?
Really, there's two things that come to mind, and those two things are actually three things, actually.
All right, I'll give you three. Go ahead.
All right. And that is the last man standing match with JDT, because that was the first time I ever faced JDT in the ring, and even in that match, he was one of my toughest opponents. He definitely was. the match with Craven, just because it made me realize that I cannot take people lightly. And then finally, everything that happened with James Marshall, because we, as much as I hate him, I also love the dude, just because we bring out the best and the worst in each other every time we get in the ring with each other. And it basically is to steal a phrase, iron sharpens iron. We make each other better and more violent in the ring.
Well, I'll tell you what. You certainly make some strong points, and Catalyst made the same mistake of going easy on Craven last year, and I am sure that chapter has not been written here. And I did want to ask you very quickly when it comes to Craven and JDT, and I know you think you might have commented on this, but I'll ask you, especially since you're here with us on the stream, and we've got literally but another 5 or 10 more minutes with you, because I know we have the big Sean Jovi Pokemon stream that we all want to make sure we get out there and watch, because it's a brand new game, and it's the new Pokemon game. I have to give him credit. He's got 513 subscribers. We want to support him. But, I mean, what did you make of what management's decision was, where basically Craven Rage and JDT can't touch each other until they're in a ring?
Smart move. And
Really?
One of the few times you'll hear me compliment Mark Packer and management, because really, if you let your two top champions go at each other and one or both get injured, you lose your title matches, or you have to, scramble to crown a new champion. Really, those two should be as far away from each other for the time being, because one, nobody needs to hold all three of those belts.
I am glad you said that, because I believe that was the same point that I think Darkfire had made. You and Darkfire, I think, rarely agree on anything, and that was another point you just did.
Like, the champions are already in a competition with each other to up their belts in general. They'll eventually face each other. That's always a given. But really, let them focus on their own thing, their own championships right now. Let them build their championships. Craven's got, the Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite, which I think we should change that, because really he's built up that belt so well this past season. And, to the point where, once he does finally lose, he is going to, whoever beats Craven for the Wisconsinite title is going to be a big deal. And as for the Interstate Openweight Championship, that's a belt that I was a part of the unboxing for it. I was a part of the, of everything kind of coming together to when we were designing belts. And the Interstate title, where its prestige comes from, is in the not just the quality of the matches, but how hard everybody in every single match went for that belt to make it mean something. Craven's done it with the Wisconsinite. Me, James Marshall, JDT, Darkfire, Kodak, we've all, Jonathan Pierce, our first champion, we all went all out this season to build that championship up. Just like how Craven, JDT, Sean Jovi, Darkfire, Adonis Filios, those guys built up the Wisconsinite to the point where really both titles are seen as equal.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's where both those two, where it's almost like the WWE will have obviously the world titles, and you'll have either the Intercontinental title or the US title, or I don't get that sense. I kind of feel like at the end of the day that Craven, and whether it was Marshall or now JDT, they're able to stand on their own and say, you know what? These guys are champions. They're champions for a reason. That's why we support them. And, well, to be honest with you, Craven Rage is waiting. And if you'd like to see that, it almost reminds me of the John Wick 3 line in the movie where it says, "Be seeing you, Mr. Wick, real soon." Could Craven Rage be waiting to see the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, real soon? I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll certainly find out. And Craven Rage has the whole world in his hands. I guess Craven Rage is now quoting what, Bray Wyatt here from a promo from a few years
Craven
back.
Rage might be the ruler of the yard, but I walked into his yard and took a dump.
Ooh, boy, the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. He is certainly throwing darts. He is throwing darts out here tonight on Sportswire. It has been a rather eventful and impactful Sportswire radio show. We heard from Darkfire the first time, who was certainly very mild-mannered, but he certainly had his moments. The resident rock star, Sean Jovi. By the way, we are just a few short minutes away from that brand new stream that we have to all go out there and watch on his YouTube. Sean Jovi, Selby, to please go out there and support. I have to ask you, is there anything that you want to say to anybody in the back that's watching or listening to this before we speak with you again?
Sure. Craven, I will eventually face you again, and I will eventually beat the living hell out of you. JDT, you told me to get back and stay in my lane. No, I'm not staying in my lane. I want the Interstate Championship. I want a shot at you again. And JDT, if I have to, I will target you on a psychological level. James Marshall, I hate you. I love you. I know we're going to face each other again at some point because our fights are destined to go on forever. And Darkfire, Adonis, anybody who thinks about stepping up and getting in my way, please think before you act, because otherwise I'm just going to destroy you. And I've already done that to both Adonis and Darkfire, so...
Well, I tell you what, Darkfire, maybe he was mild-mannered because of what the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, did to him. I don't know. Adonis Felios, nowhere to really be found tonight on Sportswire Radio. So certainly it seems like a new look. Is it the mustache? Is it the new Messiah? Is it the shirt? I don't know. I think the facial hair looks good on you, by the way. I do think that Darkfire maybe should have kept his facial hair and you should keep yours. But hey, what do I know?
To be fair to Darkfire, when he has a beard, he looks like Sami Zayn.
He does look. Actually, he does look much more like he should not have facial hair. There are some people that look like they should have facial hair, and other people that they shouldn't. But hey, you know what? Each to its own, right? Each to its own. That's why we all love WCE. James Marshall says, I did urinate in his yard, and I'm laughing my ass off. Yeah, he might have, but, you know, that's here nor there. And this individual says, Craven Rage will make Church of Christ and sing like a schoolgirl. Ooh, boy. Ooh. I tell you what, it's getting hot here on Sportswire Radio. It is getting dicey. And Darkfire is feeling oozy. Well, I don't know, though, if Sean Jovi and Darkfire would be confused for the bloodline any way possible. I don't think that'll be. But I'll tell you what, James Zayden and JDT might be convinced or might be seen as the bloodline, but going the other way. And I think next Saturday, live on Sportswire Radio, we're going to find out, I believe, around midnight Eastern time, why JDT may have a lot of problems on his hand and why his run of champion very, very well be short-lived as can be. But I know we're all getting ready for the big stream. I know you have it on your mind. I have it on my mind. I want to give you the floor. Give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, anything you want to get off your chest. Certainly you had a bang out last show of the year. You certainly go into 23 with all the momentum, as good a momentum as anybody can have here in this locker room, maybe even more momentum than Craven Rage here. So For you, my friend, the new Messiah, I turn it over to you. The floor is yours and fire away.
All right. Firstly, Craven, I will eventually see you again, but right now you're not my concern. You're second nature to me. JDT, I'm going to get my title shot. And as for your friend, I hope you realize that you have now, just by association, put your friend in the line of fire, because I'm going to target anything and everything to get you in the ring. And don't worry, I'll make sure it hurts, because I don't just sit back and wait. I am one who plots my actions. So, JDT, your poker face slipped when Reverend Tom mentioned James Saden. So now I know your Achilles heel. So eventually, I'm going to use that to my advantage. JDT, I'll see you in the ring.
Boy, I'll tell you what. I think things got really interesting tonight on Sportswire Radio. We certainly ran the gauntlet when it came to Wrestling Championship Entertainment, but I've learned one thing here. The landscape is ever evolving. It's always changing in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And Nicholas Crunson's right about one thing. He might very well be next in line to take a championship, because JDT might have won his first singles title in 25 years, but I think that the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, could have his first major singles title in 17 years. It very well only be a matter of time, and something tells me here somebody is feeling oozy. But the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, might have had the best last two shows of anybody could have had, not just in Wrestling Championship Entertainment, but of all of professional wrestling. And again, before we get out of here, if you like what you hear from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, please continue to support them. WCEheat.com, also at Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube, WCE Heat on Facebook. We'll be back next Saturday night with James Zaden. We'll have a lot to talk about with him, his journey. I'm sure JDT is going to be watching that, or maybe not watching it. He might be running away as far away as he can, and we'll certainly find out more of that. We'll also be back here live tomorrow with the natural born fighter, R.P. Davis, who will have a lot to say about his war, his knockout or tap out match of Knockout Wrestling's 10th year anniversary show against the Ronin Brian Nainton. It'll be here on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, at Tom Bryce, YouTube at Sportswire Radio. Also subscribe to our YouTube page at Sportswire Radio. Also sportnarium.com/player for more information. So, Nicholas Crenson, my friend, we hope to get you back here one more time before 23. Certainly, you've laid the case that, you know what, you might be the guy to dethrone JDT, but also JDT's got his own problems. So does Craven. Maybe things between you and James Marshall are still unresolved, and Darkfire is certainly on the run from you. So happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving, and we certainly look forward to speaking with you soon, and enjoy the Sean Jovi stream as we all will. And thank you as always, my friend.
You're welcome, and nice being on here, Reverend.
You got it. As we're here on sportnarium.com/player, and if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back here again tomorrow as well, and we've got the notification from Jovi Club Gaming that the Pokemon Scarlet launch stream has begun. So thank you, everybody. So if you're a WCE fan, go over to Sean Jovi's stream. Go watch it, like it, support this man, but also support Nicholas Crenson. Support James Marshall, Craven Rage. Friend them on Facebook. Friend these great wrestlers. Find them. Find out why WCE is the #1 wrestling company around. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, and we'll be back next week with more Wrestling Championship Entertainment and more coverage on the #1 Go radio station that is Sportswire Radio.